Hello and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well and welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about my 2025 most anticipated new releases and the 25 books that I want to read in 2025. I'm so excited for the new year. There are so many new releases coming out this year that I'm really excited for, and I have really high hopes for this year being a really good reading year. 2024 was a really good reading year for me. I actually exceeded my goal. I never thought that I would be able to read all the books that I read, but we'll do my 2024 wrap up and stats in a separate video. So this is just talking about 2025 and all the books I'm super excited for and the 25 books that I definitely want to read this year. Last year I didn't do a video like this. I only posted a short of the 24 books I wanted to read and the 24 series I wanted to start in 2024. Of those 24 books, I read 17 of them. So there's a few that I didn't get to. This year's going to be a little bit different because I'm going to make that more of a focus to make sure that I'm incorporating some of these books into my monthly TBRs. Also, I've discovered a lot of new favorite authors last year, so I have kind of like an ongoing auto by author list this year, which last year I didn't have. Choosing books this year is going to be a little bit different. I'm planning on reading a lot more new releases as they come out, and I'm planning to stay on top of new releases a lot more this year. So hopefully I will accomplish this goal of reading my 25 list. Now on my 25 list for 2025, I have 17 most anticipated new releases. So those are the first 17 books I'm going to go through in order of publication. Now I anticipate there being a lot more other new releases that I'm going to read. This is not the end all be all list because there's a lot of series that I want to start in 2025 that I haven't started yet, and some additional books for series that I think I'm gonna like are also being released in 2025, so I'm not including those on this list, but I do expect to read them as well. But because I haven't started those series yet, I'm not including those on this list. So we have 17 most anticipated new releases, and then the remaining 8 are just books that I already own that I want to make sure I read in 2025. So let's get started. Okay, so the first book in order of publication date, or release date I should say, is Unromance by Erin Conner, and this is being released on January 14th. This is kind of like an adult contemporary romance. So this is going to be a new author for me actually. I'm adding this one to the list because one of my best friends has read this and loved this. She got it through NetGalley, so it was like kind of like an ARC. We share the same book taste and she really loved it. It's supposed to be about the main character Sawyer is an author, and I think it's a romance between two authors potentially, or just two people who really hate the idea of like romance and meet cutes and all that. It's supposed to be a really fun read, supposed to be funny. I'm excited about it, and that's the first one that I added to this list. The next book on this list that I'm very excited about is Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros, which is the third book in the Empyrean series. Obviously that's like Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and now Onyx Storm. I pre-ordered this one already. I'm super excited about it. I did really like Fourth Wing, but I felt like Iron Flame felt a little bit flat for me when I was reading it. It felt like at the moment it was suffering from like filler book syndrome. So that makes me think that Onyx Storm is going to be really good. So I'm excited about that. At least that's kind of like my expectation. But there was a lot of stuff that happened in Iron Flame that I was a little bit confused about. So I'm actually planning on doing a reread for both Fourth Wing and Iron Flame before I read Onyx Storm. And hopefully that'll all kind of like solidify that series in my mind and I'll like it more. So that's the next one, Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. Already pre-ordered that one, super excited, and that one is coming out on January 21st. Then the next book on the list, which is my absolute most anticipated new release of 2025, is Deep End by Ali Hazelwood, and this one comes out the day after my birthday, so I'm so excited because that's going to be what I'll be doing on that day, is just reading this book. I don't care if there's anything else going on, I'm dropping everything and I'm just going to be reading this book. This is like my top #1 most anticipated new release for 2025. I think for 2024, Ali Hazelwood is my top author. I think her and Abby Jimenez are just like kind of like competing for the #1 spot, and both of them are coming out with new books next year, so I'm super excited about that. But between Ali Hazelwood and Abby Jimenez, I think like Ali Hazelwood might have just like a little bit slightly more of an advantage over Abby Jimenez, just because every single one of her books, even the novellas, like they're like all 5-star reads for me. Yeah, Ali is definitely holding the #1 author spot for me. So I'm super excited about this one. This is another one that I already pre-ordered and I cannot wait. So the second this book gets on my doorstep, I'm going to be reading it. Okay, this follows two swimmers, Scarlett and Lucas. And Scarlett, I believe she's in college and she's like focusing on diving, and Lucas is swim captain, world champion, all around aquatics golden boy, something like that. Yeah, he's apparently won gold medals before. I don't know. This is supposed to be Ali's sports romance, so I just love how she is expanding like into all different types of genres. Like she used to write just like the women in STEM rom-coms, then she wrote an erotica, then she wrote a YA, that was her chess book, then she wrote a fantasy, like paranormal fantasy. Now this is going to be her like first sports romance, and all of them have hit for me. Like I just love all of them. So I have no doubt this is going to be a 5 or 6-star read, and I have no doubt that this is going to be like one of my top reads of the year. So I'm so excited and I literally cannot wait for this one. The next book on the list is Scythe and Sparrow by Brynne Weaver, which is the third book in the Ruinous Love trilogy. That's following Butcher and Blackbird and Leather and Lark. And those are all serial killer romances, like serial killer rom-coms. If you've seen my previous videos, I've raved about Butcher and Blackbird last year a lot. I loved it. It was so funny, so fun, such a different concept. And I can't wait for the third book. I did really enjoy Leather and Lark. I think I even did rate that one 5 stars too. But it wasn't quite as good as Butcher and Blackbird. And Scythe and Sparrow is supposed to follow the third brother, Fionn, who I think is a doctor, and Rose, who's a circus motorcycle performer. And that's all I know about it. Yeah, that's all it says about it. It's a circus motorcycle performer, Rose, meets lonely small-town Dr. Fionn after a night of murderous adventure goes awry. So that sounds interesting. I love the first 2 books and I can't wait to read this one. And this one comes out on February 11th. The next book on the list that I have is First Time Caller by BK Borison, which is going to be a new series that she's starting right now called Heartstrings. So this is going to be the first one in the Heartstrings series, and this is supposed to be kind of like a Valentine's Day, Sleepless in Seattle inspired rom-com, I think, or love story. I don't know if this is a rom-com. This one follows Aiden Valentine and Lucy Stone. Aiden is a host of like a love kind of romance hotline or radio show or something like that, and I think he's fallen out of love with like the concept of love, and Lucy, I think she calls into this hotline or something, and things happen and things progress. So I'm super excited about this one. This is another one that my friends and I are going to do like a shared annotation of the same book and then rebind that book for like, you know, keepsakes. We did that with Megan Quinn's How My Neighbor Stole Christmas over the holidays, and we really loved doing that, so we're going to do that again with this book. Yeah, so I'm so excited about that. This one comes out also on February 11th, just like Scythe and Sparrow, so I don't know which one I'll be reading first, but I'll definitely be reading both. The next most anticipated release of 2025 I have is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, and this one comes out on April 1st, and Abby is like competing for like the #1 spot with me for authors, and obviously she's an auto-buy author, so I'm super excited that she's coming out with another book. I think this is going to follow the Part of Your World series. I'm not 100% sure if it's set in the same world or like any kind of characters are kind of like showing up in this book from the Part of Your World series, but I think I heard that somewhere, so don't quote me on that, but because this might be its own like standalone, I think I heard somebody say that this will be like in that Part of Your World series. If so, that would be great, because that was a 5-star series for me and I absolutely loved Just for the Summer. That was like one of my top reads of the year, so if that was in the same universe or in the same world, I would absolutely love that. But this one is following Xavier, who is a veterinarian, and Samantha, and I don't know what happens between them. I think they go on a date and it's like the best date ever, and then things happen. So I'm super excited for that one. I cannot wait, and that comes out on April 1st if I didn't say that yet. Next on the list I have Wild and and Wrangled by Lila Sage, which is the 4th book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, and I will be up to date on this series by the time this book comes out. I read Done and Dusted, Swift and Saddled, and I still have to read Lost and Lassoed, which is on my TBR for this month. So when this comes out on April 15th, I'll be ready for it, and I'm super excited because this is another cowboy romance. All the previous books in this series have been like really sweet, fluffy cowboy romances, just like heartwarming cowboy romances, and I love the relationships. I love the writing. They're short, they're fun, they're just a really good time. So I'm super excited for Wild and Wrangled, and I think this one will complete that series. And again, that comes out April 15th, tax day. That comes out on tax day. Okay. All right, next book on the list is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry, and this one's being released on April 22nd. I think this is on everybody's list. I think both the Abby Jimenez and Emily Henry's new releases are on everybody's list, so nothing new here. I read all of her other books, her entire backlist, well, not her entire backlist. There's one that she came out with a long time ago, which maybe eventually I'll get to, but I'm not planning on reading that anytime soon. This one is supposed to be following 2 authors who are competing to write the biography or autobiography of an octogenarian person, and it follows Alice Scott and Hayden Anderson. Hayden has already won like a Pulitzer Prize, and Alice is like looking for her next big break, something like that. So they're 2 authors, again, about bookish people, which is excellent. Book Lovers was my favorite Emily Henry book so far, so hopefully this one will top that. I'm really excited about this one. No surprise, everybody's got this on their list, and I'm sure it's going to be amazing, so I'm looking forward to it so much, and that's getting released again on April 22nd. Okay, the next one I have is actually a little bit of a surprise because this is a YA book, and you guys know, like I've said it in multiple videos, I'm kind of like trying to like lean away from YA books unless I already have them. So if I have them, I'll read them, but I wasn't planning on reading a lot of YA books or buying any YA books for 2025 except for this one, because this is by a new author that I discovered in 2024 and I absolutely loved her work, and this is Julie Soto, and the book is The Thrashers. So she's actually coming out with 2 books in 2025, this YA book and another one that's coming out later in the year, which is also on the list, and I'll get to that. But this is supposed to be her YA book. It's supposed to be like a mystery thriller romance. The other 2 books I read by her were Forget Me Not and Not Another Love Song, both 5 stars. I absolutely loved them. I loved her writing and the emotion that she puts into her writing. So of course I'm going to give her YA book a chance, and I'm super excited for that. And that is being released on May 6th. I don't really know what it's about. I think The Thrashers is kind of like an elite group in high school, and somebody dies and they're trying to, I don't know if like they're trying to recruit the main character into it, or if her like best friend is already in the group, or what's going on, but we'll find out. It's going to be fun. It'll be great, and I'm super excited. The next book on my list is the 2nd book in the saga for the Unfated, which is A Curse Carved in Bone by Danielle L. Jensen, and this is the book following A Fate Inked in Blood. That book got mixed reviews from other readers, I think, because it's kind of like a Norse mythology sort of book, but I ate it up. I absolutely loved it. I rated it 5 stars. So when I finished that book, I was like, wow, I really need the 2nd book right now. So of course this is going on my list for most anticipated new releases for 2025, and I can't wait for this one. This one comes out on May 13th, and this one continues the story of Freya, but I don't really have any other information as to what other events transpire in this book. So either way, I'm sure it'll be amazing, and I'm super excited about that because I really loved A Fate Inked in Blood, and that was one that I recommended reading and listening to the audio at the same time. If you saw that wrap up, I talked about how like some of the words and the names were a little bit confusing, and listening to it on audio and reading at the same time helps you keep pace with the story and not lose interest if you kind of get hung up on some of the words. So I think I'm going to do the same thing with this one and do a read along with the listen at the same time. So that's A Curse Carved in Bone, and that's coming out on May 13th. The next book on the list I have is Love Arranged, which is the 3rd book in the Lakefront Billionaires series by Lauren Asher. and I loved her first book. Love Redesigned, I loved it. It was a 5-star book for me, and Love Unwritten was the second one, was kind of like a single dad one, and that one didn't hit quite the same as the first book, but it was still good, and I think I rated that one like 3 stars. But I do want to continue the series because I do like her writing. This series is a little bit more rom-com-y compared to like her Dreamland Billionaire series, which I read last year. Yeah, the Dreamland Billionaire series came off a little bit more emotional to me, whereas these Lakefront Billionaire one is coming off a little bit more rom-com-y to me, which I enjoy a little bit more. So I'm excited for this one. Hopefully it won't be quite as long as the second book was, but either way, I'm still gonna read it, and it's still one of my top anticipated releases. So that's coming out on May 13th, and that's Love Arranged by Lauren Asher. The next book on the list I have is also by a new author that I discovered last year, and I'm really loving her writing, and that is It's a Love Story by Annabelle Monaghan, and this book comes out on May 27th. Last year I read Same Time Next Summer and Summer Romance. I really loved Summer Romance. Same Time Next Summer didn't quite hit as much, but I did like the writing in it. I just didn't love like the plot, but I loved Summer Romance. It's about like a little bit older women, not really older, but like women in their 30s, and it's like true adult romances instead of like being like kind of like new adult romances. So I really enjoyed it because it was a little bit different than most of the romances I read last year. This follows Jane Jackson, who's a creative executive, and some pop star that she used to date or kiss or have a crush on, I don't really know, is coming out with an original song, which is a lie apparently, and so she's got to deal with that. I really liked her writing in the previous books, so I'm expecting the same from this one. There's still another book, Nora Goes Off Script, that she came out with recently, or maybe like last year or the year before last year, that I have not read, but if I find the time to read that one as well, I will. Yeah, but It's a Love Story comes out on May 27th, and that's another anticipated read for me. The next book I have on the list is one that I'm not really seeing that many people have on their list, and that is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. And this is supposed to be kind of like a historical fiction fantasy with vampires. Yeah, I have zero information as to what this one is about, but it's supposed to be 3 young women, their bodies planted in the same soil, their stories tangling like roots. One grows high, one grows deep, and one grows wild, and all of them grow teeth. That's all it says about this book. Now, I put this one on the list because of Addie LaRue and how much I loved Addie LaRue in 2023. At the end of 2023, that was like my top book of 2023. So hopefully I'm gonna love this one as well, and hopefully it's kind of got that same kind of magical realism vibes, and it's vampires and it's fantasy, so this one comes out on June 10th. The next book I have on the list is Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston, which is another one of her kind of like magical realism contemporary romances. Her new release last year did fall a little bit flat, a novel love story. That one fell a little bit flat for me, but that's okay because she's had 2 previous hits, so I'm anticipating this one, and I think that this one will be really good. This one is about the main character, Joni Lark, who's a songwriter, and she's kind of like working through writer's block at the moment, but when she goes away somewhere, she starts to hear like melodies in her head, and I think it's coming from like the male main character in the book, but I'm not really sure. That's just kind of like what I'm getting from the synopsis, and it sounds really interesting. It sounds like another really cool magical realism concept that only Ashley Poston can come up with. She's amazing with like the ideas that she comes up with, and I really, really love her ideas, and hopefully the execution on this one works. So I'm excited about that. It's called Sounds Like Love, and that's coming out on June 17th. So we're on number 15 now, and this is another Lana Ferguson number, and that is Overruled by Lana Ferguson, obviously. And this one's coming out on July 1st. This is supposed to follow 2 divorce lawyers, and if you've read any previous Lana Ferguson works, she writes very, very spicy romances. So enough said. I love Lana Ferguson. She's had really great works in the past. Yeah, my top read of hers was The Fake Mate. That was a 5-star read for me. I also read The Nanny, which was one of her older books, and I also really liked that. It wasn't 5 stars, but it was high up there. And she also came out with Under Lock and Key, this year, which I haven't read yet, and she also came out with The Game Changer recently. I think that might have also been a 2024 release, or maybe like late 2020. That one fell a little bit flat for me, but the other two were great and I really loved them, and I really love The Fake Mates, so I'm excited for this one as well. And that one comes out on July 1st. All right, the next one on the list is also a very highly anticipated new release for 2025. This is also another one of the top ones that I'm super excited about, and that is Rose in Chains by Julie Soto. And this is another one that she's kind of expanding to write in a different genre. I think this is going to be her first dark fantasy romance. This is following the main character Brioni, whose town is kind of like being overrun and taken over by enemies, and she's then taken as prisoner and sold to the highest bidder. So that sounds interesting. And obviously I mentioned I loved her other two books that I read, which were adult romances, and then now she's coming out with The Thrashers, which was also previously on the list, which is her YA kind of book, and now this is going to be a dark fantasy romance. So I'm super excited about that. That comes out on July 3rd. And you best believe I'll be reading it when it comes out. Okay? And the final 17th book of my top anticipated new releases for 2025. This might or might not be a surprise to some people, but that is Merry Christmas, You Filthy Animal by Meghan Quinn. And this is the second book after How My Neighbor Stole Christmas by Meghan Quinn, which is the book me and my friends annotated together and read over the holidays and shared, and I absolutely loved it because it was so funny, so full of Christmas references, and it was just like one of my favorite books, and I would definitely reread that every year. I know a lot of people have not loved that book. I've seen it get some lower ratings and people just didn't vibe with it. I totally did vibe with it. I absolutely love that book. So whatever, everybody has different tastes in books, which is fine. But I just really enjoyed it. I had so much fun reading it. It was cheesy, it was Christmassy, it was fun. I absolutely loved Max in that book, who's the best friend of the male main character, and this book is supposed to be his book. So I'm super excited about it. There's no description on Goodreads of that one yet, so I don't really know what it's about or what happens, but it's supposed to be Max's book. So that one comes out on October 7th. Okay, so those are my top new releases of 2025. That's 17 of them. I actually also have an honorable mention that I forgot to add to this list, which is Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams, which actually just came out or is coming out? No, it just came out at the beginning of January. So this one's out already, and I absolutely can't wait to read that one because I just finished Practice Makes Perfect. This is the third book in the When in Rome series. So the first one is When in Rome, then Practice Makes Perfect, and now this one, Beg, Borrow, or Steal. So I already have it. I already own it. I pre-ordered it, I think, in December, and that's arrived, and I'm going to be reading that this month. So that was another one of my 2025 anticipated new releases that I'm putting in as an honorable mention. So the next 8 to complete the top 25 of 25 that I want to read are books that I already have and have previously purchased that I haven't read yet that I really want to get to in 2025. And for different reasons I haven't read them, so let's go through those now. And the first one of these is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. Yeah, I've been super scared to read this book because of the devastation that comes along with it and like the emotional ruin that it will cause in my life and how it will turn my life upside down after I read it. So I've been putting it off. But no more. It's an award-winning book. It has a little medal on it. Yeah, I just have to buck up, mentally prepare myself, and read this book. So that's A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I don't really know what it's about, but it deals with a lot of like childhood trauma and like mental health issues. So I'm very afraid to read this book. Okay, very afraid. Next on the list is the Blood and Ash series and the Flesh and Fire series, their interconnected series. So far I only have this one from Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and I'm planning on, or I'm wanting to read this entire series, but definitely at least like the first few books of this series. This is a romantasy series that's been out for a while. It's been around, everyone's seen it, and I just want to get to it because I hear it's really good. I just purchased this in December, and you saw this in my last haul. So now that I have the first one, I can start reading this series. The next one that I have on the list is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. And this has been sitting on my shelves for a while, like several months. I think I got this early last year and I've just been putting it off because it's very chunky and it's a fantasy and I think it's supposed to be like super dense. And I think it has mixed reviews. So I've been putting it off, but it's been sitting on my shelf for a while. So this is another one that I really want to get to in 2025. All I know about it is that it's a fantasy and it has dragons. The next one on the list is also the series, and that is the Addicted series by Krista and Becca Ricci. And this is the first book, Addicted to You, which I also acquired in December in my last haul. And this is another one of those beloved series that everybody loves, and you know, like they like the Addicted and the Calloway Sisters series. I think those two are intertwined series, or Calloway follows Addicted. I'm not really sure, but I want to get to this series as well just because of like the hype and because everybody seems to really love this series. So I also want to read it. So far, I only have the first one of this as well. Next on the list, and I think many people are going to be surprised that I have not read this yet, but that is also the series, and that is the Boys of Tommen series by Chloe Walsh. I don't really have words as to why I haven't read this yet, but it's been sitting on my shelves for a while, and I think I'm just kind of procrastinating because of the hype related to the series and because it's so many people's favorite series that like I'm kind of afraid that like what if I don't like it, and I'm just kind of putting it off. But no more. In 2025 we're going to read the Boys of Tommen series. So that's Binding 13, Keeping 13, Redeeming 6, and something else 6, and then Saving 7? No, Saving 6, Redeeming 6, and then Taming 7. Yeah, so I have the entire series. I'm going to read the entire series in 2025. No excuses. Same story for this one, and that is the Windy City series by Liz Tom-Forty. This series will be read this year. I've been also putting this off because of like the expectations of like loving it. Not particularly this first book, because a lot of people don't really love this first book, but they love the second, third, fourth, and now there's going to be another book coming out in 2025. So I didn't add that to my 25 most anticipated new releases, but I will probably read that because I have to read this series this year. So no excuses for this one either. I just got to get over like the fear of the hype and just read them. And then the next book that I added to this list is Swordheart by T. Kingfisher, and this is supposed to be kind of like a funny fantasy that I keep seeing all over like BookTube and BookTok and all that, and I just recently acquired it in December as well because of like how everybody's talking about this and how like it's supposed to be a funny book and how I love funny books. So I added this one to the list because I definitely want to get to this very soon, and this will also be a new author for me because I have not read anything by T. Kingfisher before. So that's the next one I added. And then the final 25th book that I want to read in 2025 is Tomorrow, Tomorrow, and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. And this is one of the first books that I purchased when I picked up reading again in 2023, and it's been sitting on my shelf for over a year now, and it's supposed to be a really good book. This is on one of my best friends like treasures list, that she absolutely loves this book, and so do so many other people. So I'm not really sure why I've been putting it off. I think because it's not really a romance. I think it's more of like a literary fiction instead of a romance, but I've been putting it off because of the expectations, and I just kind of have to get over my fear of like having high expectations for a book and being afraid that it's going to disappoint. I really don't think this one will disappoint because this is actually won awards as like the book of the year for 2022. So I really don't think this will disappoint, but I'm also just kind of like nervous about picking it up. But again, no more excuses. I just got to pick it up and get into it. Okay, so that's the final 25th book of the 25 books that I want to read in 2025. Yeah, that's it. That's 25 books and one honorable mention. Obviously, this is not the end-all be-all list. I have set my Goodreads goal for 2025 to be 100 books. So hopefully I will meet or exceed that goal. I'm super excited for so many of these books that are coming out in 2025, and I just can't wait to get started on them. I've already gotten started on a few, and I just can't wait to get into everything. I've been loving watching everybody else's videos about the books that they want to read in 2025 and like their anticipated releases. So it's given me a lot of ideas. So yeah, I'm super excited, as I've already said, and that's it. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, all my links are down below. Please follow or friend me on Goodreads if you want to follow along with my reading journey. I would love to follow along with your reading journey as well. And let me know down below what your most anticipated release is for 2025. I would love to know. Thank you again for watching. I really appreciate you being here, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.